Greetings adventurers and welcome to Loot Goblin Marketplace. What is the difference between an RPG horror story and a glory story? It's simple really. If you and your fellow party members are forced to quit, it's probably a horror story. But if you can get the problem player DM to quit in a fit of rage that everyone else just laughs at, that's a glory story. Today's treasure is called the Edgelord who blackballed the villain before the DM could do the same to us. For a while, I wanted to get into D&D, but didn't know exactly where to start. At the time, I wasn't very internet savvy and didn't know a lot of people that played it. Eventually, however, I found a game store with a dungeon master that hosted sessions and seemed to recently be open. At the time, I didn't know why'd he just become open, nor did I know that he kept losing players. I brought my friend Drew along and we rolled up our characters with a couple of other new guys. Our hopes were high and the DM proclaimed himself to be a master story crafter, with countless awe-inspiring characters and arcs. I rolled the tiefling bard named Prudence, who intended to play as sort of a con artist with a heart of gold. Drew rolled up a half-elf paladin named Aluna Nock. The other players were a gnome sorceress, a halfling cleric, and a half-orc monk. Me, Drew, and the other players quickly got along, and the session started with us all meeting in a tavern. Can't go wrong with that. At the time, I wasn't quite aware of how cliche that was, but whatever. Maybe the DM wanted us to have a simple, straightforward, bright adventure. Since we were all new to D&D, this turned out to not be the case. Instead, our adventure consists of trudging through a grim-dark, semi-noir styled story, where we had to deal with things like mob wars, murdered NPCs, and a lot of sex and racism. I don't even think we got to leave the city. We weren't exactly comfortable with this setting, but figured out that it was just sort of the price of admission. DM's the dungeon master, and that means he's our master, I guess, and kind of just went along with things, hoping that would get better. They did not. Okay, hold up. You don't have to call him master. He's just the guy facilitating the story. I know it's in the name, but please don't give this man a god complex. I think he probably has a big enough one already. Our first real quest dealt with a crew of goblin smugglers that we tracked down to an old shipyard. We charged into their hideout and immediately all went down in 2 rounds, as the goblins all cast lightning bolt. The only reason it took a second turn is because Monk stopped himself from charging through the door right after Alun went down. Enter Kanye.
His name is Kanye. He's a giant, yo.
The NPC rogue paladin wizard something to save us, single-handedly killing all the goblins with ease, casting Spare the Dying on us, and blowing up the ship we were to target, which was loaded with all the contraband. The DM described all of this in extensive detail for over 5 minutes while we just lay there barely alive, unable to do anything. I'm pretty sure he also described the parts our characters weren't even there to see. The session wrapped up with Kanye berating the party for such carelessness in the pursuit of justice, and we escaped back to our base at the end. We only got half the payment because some mysterious figure who delivered the head of the goblin captain collected the bounty. After the session, I asked DM if the encounter was even balanced for us, and he seemed to take offense to this, because he went into a long lecture about goblins and how they seemed to exploit a bunch of homebrew and metagaming factors that made them all insanely powerful, but there's still just that challenge rating. I was a little annoyed, but took it in stride. Okay, I figured, maybe we're supposed to take a more stealthy, tactical approach, and this super guy is just meant to represent how powerful we are all going to become in the end. Or maybe he's supposed to act like a simple safety net. If only I'd realized sooner. We met again, and this time we tried to stealth our way around the hideout of a bunch of thieves after a heist to catch them unaware. The DM abruptly tells us to roll for initiative. We apparently all just got caught with no chance or save. Immediately, we're beaten down by a bunch of thieves that were just as broken as his goblins. And again, Kanye came in to save the day. The DM gave us a very lengthy, detailed, and enthusiastic description of him tearing apart the thieves, saving us, and talking down to us, like we're dumb children. Monk weakly asked who he was, and he just continued to monologue about essentially how cool he was and how foolish we were, etc., not giving any detail as to who he was or why he was saving us. Instead, just going on about how beautiful and wretched the city was and how much of a lone crusader he was, and blah blah. In addition, Kanye seemed to curse like a sailor, with his favorite word being goddamn. Basically, imagine the Punisher mixed with Batman written by Frank Miller, specifically modern Miller. Yet again, we were sent back to base to only pick up half the reward and a penalty to our experience. A penalty? Are you serious? This went on repeatedly. While in the city, many NPCs told us legends of this mysterious vigilante, Kanye, whom all the criminal underworld feared, and how he once punched out the Demigorgon, or something. For so many NPCs we had to work with, they seemed to all fit so few archetypes: the grizzled old man, the sultry bad girl, and the streetwise punk kid, all of which were snarky and insulting the party the whole way through. It wasn't very long into this campaign where I tried to work with the DM to make these encounters easier. We weren't having fun getting stomped so quickly, and then having this NPC bail us out every time. He countered basically by going how awesome he was though, and how tragic his backstory supposedly was, and how we were all supposed to be enthralled by this righteous crusader. I asked if we could leave the city and he dismissed it, saying we'd be hunted down and murdered by a cabal of demons. I just asked for some fights that we could win without help, and that would have been all we needed. Wait, dude, the cabal of demons sounds so cool. That should be the focus of his story. Why can't you leave the city without a bunch of demons hunting you down? Now I just want to see that. The DM said he understood and would fix things for us. Next session, we were killing rats in a sewer, not dire rats, just regular rats that seemed unnaturally hostile, partially due to our target, a mad druid. After dealing with the rats, the druid revealed himself, wild-shaped into a giant spider boar thing, and wiped the floor with us. Kanye came, saved us, did his thing, and left. Well, at least you got to get to the boss fight, right? At this point, some of the other players were actively getting frustrated and complained about nothing having changed. The DM complained back that he gave us that free encounter that was a little more than us stomping on rats. That should have been enough. No, it was not. The DM player argued that we came here to have an adventure with a satisfying combat and story, and so far, we'd just been acting as an audience for his DMPC's solo story. Every time we got close to the boss, we'd get stomped, and Kanye would take the spotlight. Every mystery that went on for too long, we'd arrive with Kanye having already gotten there first and taken care of everything. Monk, why are we even here? DM, because you should want to do good things as heroes. Monk, and what have we managed to do? DM, you fought crime and witchcraft. Monk, we have, and we lost. Every single time. Then you basically take the story for yourself and act like we're not even here. I didn't come here to hear about adventures you wrote up for yourself. I came here to play an adventure. After this argument, we took a hiatus of a couple months. When we came back together, Monk's player was unable to join us due to a new job he had to work, so we got another new player to join us instead. They rolled up a half-drow rogue named Drog. First impressions weren't the best. DM, alright, introduce your character in the tavern. Rogue. He sits quietly in a dark corner, looking into a piece of paper. He doesn't say anything upon seeing you. DM's eyes visibly narrowed and a sour expression was clear on his face. Fan-effin' fabulous. We now have an Edgelord party member in a campaign that is nothing but edge. Can't wait to see how he reacts upon being out-edged by the uber-cool Kanye. One of the few things that kept this campaign going was the RP between us. Cleric and Sorceress were a charming pair that formed an adorable little romance, and the two players gradually started to date each other. Monk and Drew played as phenomenal rivals, always trying to outdo each other, while still working together. Me and Drew were like a typical buddy cop duo, with me being the wacky trickster and him being the honorable warrior that still got his jokes. In fact, Drew played Elune great, himself able to balance a thirst for vengeance, being an Oath of Vengeance paladin, and righteousness, without being so preachy or inflexible with the group, and displayed great depth with it. And now we have an Edgelord whose character barely responds, beyond, he looks at you with apathy, but understanding and gives you a nod. He glares your way, before sternly shaking his head. Or if we're lucky, maybe saying a sentence of about 5 words or less. However, remarkably, he seemed to play alright, not murdering any guards, creeping on NPCs, nor stealing anything we didn't need. He just didn't RP much, so it seemed. I felt a little bored with him, but tolerated it. Shortly into our session with the new guy, we found the dead, mutilated body of the half-orc monk hung from a tree, with a message directed at us. We were on the case, now it was personal, and Elune filled in Drog as to what was going on. We followed the trail to the hideout of the boss, a Goliath wizard that was the right hand to the big bad evil guy who had stolen a rare set of silver pearls that had magical properties. What's more, he was the one that killed the monk and even essayed a major character from Elune's backstory as he told Drog. He even shared a picture the DM made. We rolled initiative and immediately the 4 of us were caught by a hold person spell. I gave a frustrated look at the DM who looked excited for something special coming. He began to monologue through the wizard to us about how Elune was so weak and helpless while he essayed his sister. However, Drog was still active and ran at him with his dagger. DM, He casts heat metal on the rogue. Me. What? He's already casting hold person on us. DM. He's a warcaster and can cast another spell while maintaining concentration for it, he said with a satisfied expression. Drog failed his con save and thus had to drop his dagger after taking the damage while still running at him, sliding between his legs. DM. Your hand is badly burned and hot to the touch. What do you do before he crushes you? Drog's players stare down at the map, then to his character sheet, then to the wizard's pick, his eyes darting between them with a worried expression on his face, but also hinting at an idea in his head. At this point, I wasn't paying much attention because I was expecting Kanye to save us again, and steal the show like always. Drog's player. I grab his balls? DM. Make a dexterity check. Drog. I got a 19. DM. Well, alright, you've got a hold of them. Now all you got is your pitiful bonus action. Tell me what you do. Drog's player. I squeeze his testicles as hard as I can. I use a strength check, right? DM. What? The room was silent for a solid minute. DM thought Drog was grabbing for the stolen pearls, but now he instead had his hand around jewels even more precious to the wizard. The DM started to flip through his notes and the book frantically, trying to find a loophole. The wizard wasn't wearing armor, just a kilt secured by his belt. But there was no such thing. This wasn't for damage, this wasn't for theft, this was simply going to hurt. DM, make a strength check? And there we received a miracle from on high, not from the Dungeon Master's NPC flexing, but from the D&D gods themselves. Natural 20. The DM was horrified and scrambled to counter. He rolls a Constitution save. Natural 1. There truly are D&D gods. The Dungeon Master states that the wizard had lost concentration on all the spells. Next turn, a loon charges head on, rolling to attack, as we all moved into a fight with everything we had. I kicked the hot dagger to his spellbook, the sorceress used Mage Hand to place the hot metal over the book, and the cleric drove it right through the book with his warhammer. Drog was not letting go no matter what, while Alun plunged his sword into the wizard's face. In 2 rounds, Alun had inflicted the finishing blow, his sister and friend had been avenged. The DM's face was bright red as he watched us defeat this boss. Drog finally decided to roleplay a bit even. Drog. He finally let go, got back up to his feet, wiping his hands off on the wizard's kilt, and dusting off his hat. It's done, but how it was done never leaves this room. We all started laughing at what had just happened, all except for the DM. We only stopped when he started screaming at us. DM. You ruined my scene, you ruined everything. You were supposed to be beaten and saved by Kanye. He was the big bad evil guy. Drew. Hey, he was mine too. Me. Yeah, and this time we actually got to beat him. DM went into a long rant about how Kanye was supposed to kill him because the wizard had murdered his family, burned down his hometown, and sold him into slavery when he was a baby. We all just started laughing harder. The campaign ended after that, and the DM never wanted to play with us again. But that moment will be the one I will always cherish as my first glorious victory in D&D. In the follow-up, we became friends with Drog's player and invited him to play with Monk's player as well. And just as it so happened, he became a DM himself. TLDR, DM wanted us to be a captive audience for his edgy OC's edgy adventures, until a would-be edgelord beat him to it, busting the big bad evil guy's OC and the DM's balls all in one squeeze. Okay, that story was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be going in. This was posted on the RPG Horror Stories Reddit. They also posted it on Glory Stories, and I can see why. Had there not been those amazing rolls and the fact that the DM kind of went along with it just until he realized it was too late, man, that's a perfect payoff. What's really sad too is, had the DM just had a better mentality, this could have been the finale and they could have started another campaign, no problem. Whenever there's a situation where the Dungeon Master is mad because you stole a narrative moment from them, it's a sign that they're trying to write a book and not trying to run a D&D campaign. If you ever experience that, I recommend you run as fast as possible. One thing I like about these players too, they were very open with communication. They mentioned that the sessions were hard, and in good faith, they're saying, you know, this Kanye character, I know you like them, but we want to have some wins too. And the DM gave them, what, fighting rats? That's like a level 1 quest in every MMO. So clearly, this Dungeon Master, there's a reason why his previous parties left him. I don't have much more criticism for what the party could have done better here, because clearly they communicated what they wanted. They could have, you know, left early, but then you wouldn't have got this amazing payoff. So for the sake of the story, I'm glad you stuck around. and I hope you guys stick around for the next video. Make sure to like and subscribe and help grow the channel by becoming a member. I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.